Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. So today we're going to dive into something pretty fascinating.
Okay.
It's all about the psychology of money.
Yeah.
We're going to kind of put aside like those, complex spreadsheets
Right.
and interest rates and all that stuff that can sometimes
Yeah.
make people's eyes glaze over.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're going to go deeper using the book The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel
Great book.
as our guide. And we always hear those stories about like the person with the modest job who quietly builds this fortune
Right.
while others seem to have every advantage and end up struggling.
Yep.
So that's kind of what we want to unpack today with the help of our expert.
Well, what's intriguing about this book is that it really highlights the often overlooked aspect of personal finance,
Mm-hmm.
which is the human element. It really delves into how our individual experiences, our emotions, even our biases
Yeah.
can influence our financial decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes more than any textbook or financial advice ever could.
It's like those stories that Housel opens with, right? Ronald Reed, the janitor who amassed millions. And then you have Richard Fuscone, this like high-flying tech executive who went bankrupt. It just, it makes you wonder, what's the real secret to financial success?
Exactly. And, these stories are a powerful illustration that financial success isn't always tied to brilliance or, complex formulas.
Right.
Reed, despite his unassuming profession, he understood the power of consistency and patience.
Mm-hmm.
He invested steadily over decades, demonstrating that slow and steady can indeed win the race. Fuscone, on the other hand, maybe he fell victim to some common pitfalls.
Right.
Lifestyle inflation, overconfidence.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It's a great reminder, I think, that it's not just about knowing what to do, but actually doing it consistently, right?
Right.
Even when it seems like nothing much is happening.
Yeah.
Like kind of building wealth in the shadows.
Yeah.
But Housel goes even deeper than that, I think, right?
Sure does.
He talks about how our personal experiences shape our relationship with money.
Absolutely. Imagine someone who grew up
Yeah.
during the Great Depression.
Right.
They might be incredibly risk-averse,
Oh, yeah.
prioritizing saving above all else, even when the economy is booming.
Yeah.
Conversely, someone who came of age during a period of, economic prosperity
Right.
might be more comfortable with risk, investing aggressively. So the point is, our individual experiences with money, especially early on, become ingrained in us and shape how we view risk saving and investment.
It makes you realize there's no one-size-fits-all approach to money.
Right.
It's deeply personal.
It is.
But how does that play into the whole idea of luck and risk?
Well, Housel argues that we often underestimate the role of luck and risk in our financial lives.
Okay.
We like to think we're in control,
Right.
but sometimes being in the right place at the right time can make all the difference. He used the example of Bill Gates, who happened to attend one of the few high schools with access to a computer in the 1960s.
That's right. It's a fascinating example of how a single, seemingly random event can just have this huge impact on a person's trajectory.
Absolutely.
So are you saying it's all just luck?
Not entirely. Skill and hard work obviously matter.
Yeah.
But recognizing the role of luck is about cultivating humility.
Oh.
It's about understanding that sometimes things are simply outside our control, and that's okay. It's about not beating ourselves up when things don't go as planned.
Right.
And not becoming overconfident when we experience success.
It's interesting how this ties into the stories of Rajat Gupta and Bernie Madoff. Both achieved a level of success most people only dream of.
Right.
Yet they risked all for more.
Yeah.
Gupta, a respected CEO, went down the path of insider trading. And Madoff, well, we all know about his infamous Ponzi scheme. It makes you think about the idea of enough.
Precisely the constant comparison to those who have more, that never-ending pursuit of more,
Right.
can be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Both financially and personally.
Yeah.
It's like this insatiable hunger that's never satisfied. And Housel brilliantly connects this to the broader concept of social comparison, which can warp our financial goals
Right.
and lead us to make decisions that aren't in our best interest.
It seems like a lot of these themes, right? This influence of our past experiences, the role of luck, this insatiable desire for more.
Yeah.
They all play into how we approach something as fundamental as compounding, right?
Absolutely. You see, understanding these psychological factors can help us grasp why compounding, despite its simplicity, can be so difficult for people to embrace.
I am all ears. how does Housel connect these seemingly disparate ideas?
We see compounding at its core is about delaying gratification.
Okay.
It's about, planting a seed today and letting it grow over time.
Mm-hmm.
Resisting that urge to dig it up every day and see if it's sprouting. Right. Housel uses this brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
The formation of ice ages.
Oh, wow.
A
Okay.
tiny change in the Earth's tilt
Yeah.
can lead to these massive ice sheets forming over thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly small, consistent financial decisions like saving a little each month
Yeah.
can create significant wealth over time.
Right. So it's not about like some grand sweeping gesture. It's about these seemingly insignificant actions we take consistently. But you mentioned it can be hard for people to grasp.
It is.
Why is that?
Because our brains aren't wired for it.
Okay.
We're wired for instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see results now,
Yeah.
not decades down the road.
Right.
And plus, the early stages of compounding can feel incredibly slow
Yeah.
and uneventful.
Yeah.
You might be diligently saving and investing for years, and it seems like nothing much is happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's where our past experiences, our anxieties, and our need for instant gratification
Yeah.
can really sabotage our efforts.
So how do we overcome that? How do we stay disciplined and patient, especially when it feels like we're not making much progress?
That's where understanding the psychology of money comes in.
Okay.
Recognizing our tendencies towards impatience,
Mm-hmm.
our fear of missing out, our need for control. All of these things can help us make more rational decisions.
Right.
For instance, if you're aware of your tendency to chase quick returns,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be less likely to jump into risky investments.
Right. It sounds like he's suggesting that mastering our emotions is as important as mastering
Absolutely.
any financial strategy.
And that leads us to one of the most important concepts in the book,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of survival as the key to compounding.
Survival. Right.
Housel argues that the most important word in investing is not return, it's survival.
What exactly does he mean by survival? I thought it was all about maximizing returns.
Of course, returns are important,
Yeah.
but think about it this way. You can't compound if you're out of the game. Housel points out that about 40% of publicly traded companies end up losing all of their value.
Wow.
That's a sobering statistic.
It is.
It means that even if you pick some amazing companies to invest in,
Right.
there's always a chance that things could go wrong.
That makes sense. It's like playing a game of musical chairs, right? You can be the best dancer in the room.
Right.
But if you don't have a chair when the music stops, you're out.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of room for error comes in.
Okay.
You need to have a financial plan that can withstand
Yeah.
unexpected events.
Right.
Imagine losing your job or facing a sudden medical expense.
Mm-hmm.
Could your investment portfolio survive that?
Right.
Could you still stick to your long-term plan?
So that's where the idea of having an emergency fund comes in, right?
Precisely. An emergency fund is a great example of building in room for error.
Right.
It's a safety net that allows you to weather those unexpected storms
Yeah.
without derailing your entire financial plan.
But it seems counterintuitive, though. Shouldn't we be investing as much as possible to maximize our returns?
Yes, but maximizing returns shouldn't come at the expense of your financial security.
Right.
Housel even shares a story of Michael Moritz,
Okay.
the head of Sequoia Capital, one of the most successful venture capital firms in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Moritz attributes their success to a constant fear of going out of business.
Fear, that doesn't sound like a recipe for success.
It might sound strange,
Yeah.
but that fear keeps them agile and adaptable.
Okay.
It forces them to constantly assess risks, consider different perspectives, and prepare for the unexpected.
So it's like having a healthy dose of paranoia that keeps you on your toes.
Exactly.
Interesting how this ties into his discussion of being reasonable versus being rational.
Yeah.
He tells the story of Julius Wagner-Jareg,
Mm-hmm.
a doctor who won a Nobel Prize for treating syphilis with malaria-induced fevers.
Yeah, that story perfectly illustrates the point that sometimes the most logical or rational approach isn't always the best.
Right.
Sometimes we need to be a little bit unreasonable, a little bit unconventional to achieve the best outcome.
So in the context of investing, what does being reasonable look like?
It means not getting too caught up in trying to optimize every single decision.
Okay.
It means acknowledging that there's no such thing as a perfect portfolio or a foolproof strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It means accepting that you might not always make the optimal choice from a purely mathematical standpoint.
Right.
But that's okay, as long as your overall approach is sound and allows you to sleep at night.
So are you saying it's okay to deviate from a strictly rational approach sometimes?
Absolutely. Remember, personal finance is personal. It's about finding a strategy that works for you,
Yeah.
that aligns with your goals, your risk tolerance, and your peace of mind.
So if holding a little extra cash or favoring companies from your own country makes you feel more secure,
Exactly.
even if it's not statistically optimal, that's okay.
It's about finding that balance between being financially responsible and being able to live your life without constant anxiety about your investments.
This all leads to one of Housel's most thought-provoking points, the idea that things that have never happened before happen all the time, especially in finance and economics.
Right.
He argues that we can't rely solely on historical data to predict the future because the underlying rules of the game are constantly changing.
It's a critical point. Look at the rise of the 401k,
Yeah.
the shift to a service-based economy, the changing demographics of the workforce. All of these structural changes have profoundly impacted how we approach saving and investing.
So how do we navigate a world where the rules are constantly changing?
By being adaptable,
Yeah.
by being willing to challenge our assumptions, and by being open to new information.
Okay.
It's about understanding that what worked for our parents or grandparents might not work for us.
Right.
We need to be flexible in our thinking and our planning.
It's like that saying, the only constant is change.
Exactly. And embracing that reality rather than fearing it is key to navigating the complexities of the financial world.
Speaking of embracing reality, Housel has a rather amusing take on pessimism. He suggests that predictions of doom often seem more persuasive than predictions of progress. He uses this hypothetical scenario of a Japanese economist in 1946 trying to predict Japan's future economic success.
Right.
Imagine trying to convince someone then that Japan would become a global economic powerhouse.
It's a great illustration of how our current circumstances can cloud our judgment and make us susceptible to fear-mongering.
Right.
It's easier to believe the worst-case scenario, especially when it's presented in a compelling way.
Yeah.
But as history has shown, those dire predictions are often wrong.
It's like that Mark Twain quote, "I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened."
Exactly. And that brings us to another fascinating concept.
Okay.
The narrative fallacy.
A narrative fallacy.
Housel explains that our brains are wired to find patterns and create stories even when none exist.
How does that play into the world of money?
Well, think about the 2008 financial crisis.
Okay.
The underlying capacity for wealth creation hadn't changed overnight.
Right.
But the story we told ourselves about the economy did. That shift in narrative, that loss of confidence, triggered a cascade of events that led to a global meltdown.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Precisely.
We believe a certain story, and then we act in ways that make that story come true.
And that's why it's so important to be aware of the narratives we're buying into, especially when it comes to our finances.
Yeah.
Are we letting fear and pessimism drive our decisions, or are we looking at the facts objectively?
It sounds like he's encouraging us to be more critical thinkers.
Yeah.
To question the stories we're being told and to develop our own informed perspective.
Exactly. And to do that, we need to have a solid understanding of the fundamentals, the basic principles of finance and economics.
Right.
Because when we lack that understanding, we're more susceptible to falling for scams,
Right.
following gurus, and making irrational decisions.
He illustrates this point with a rather shocking anecdote. The story of an Iraqi man who sold fake bomb detectors.
That story, while unsettling, highlights the power of desperation and the human tendency to grasp at any solution,
Yeah.
even one that's clearly flawed.
Yeah.
When we're fearful and uncertain, we're more likely to believe anything that offers a sense of security or control.
It's a reminder that even in the face of fear and uncertainty, it's essential to maintain a critical eye and not let our emotions cloud our judgment.
Absolutely, because ultimately knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
The more we understand about how money works, how our minds work, and how the world works, the better equipped we are to make sound financial decisions.
You know, it seems like a recurring theme in the psychology of money is this idea of self-awareness, like understanding our own biases and tendencies.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's saying that knowing ourselves is just as important as knowing about interest rates or investment strategies.
You hit the nail on the head. In fact, he dedicates an entire chapter to confessions,
Confessions.
where he shares his own personal financial confessions.
Yeah.
Moments when he made decisions that weren't perfectly rational.
What kind of confessions? I'm curious, like, does a financial expert like him ever make mistakes?
We all make mistakes. It's part of being human.
Right.
You know, he talks about how he once bought a timeshare, even though it probably wasn't the most financially sound decision. He also admits to holding on to certain investments
Yeah.
longer than he should have, driven by emotion rather than logic.
That's really refreshing to hear. It makes him seem more relatable, more human.
It does.
It's like he's saying, hey, I'm not perfect.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's a powerful message, especially in the world of finance, which can often feel intimidating and judgmental.
Right.
It reinforces the idea that personal finance is deeply personal.
Yeah.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
We all have our own unique goals, anxieties, and experiences that shape our financial decisions.
So if we had to distill all this down into a few key takeaways,
Okay.
what would you say are the most important lessons we can learn from the psychology of money?
Well, first and foremost, understand your own psychology.
Okay.
Recognize that your experiences, your emotions, and your biases shape your financial decisions, sometimes in ways that you might not even be aware of.
Right.
Take the time to reflect on your relationship with money. Where did your beliefs and attitudes about money come from? How have your past experiences influenced your financial decisions?
So it's like that old saying, know thyself.
Exactly. And once you have a better understanding of yourself,
Yeah.
you can start to make more conscious, intentional choices with your money.
What else? Any other nuggets of wisdom that stand out to you?
Remember that luck and risk play a bigger role in our financial lives than we often acknowledge.
Okay.
Don't beat yourself up over every financial misstep. And don't assume that every success was purely due to skill. Humility is key. Be grateful for the good fortune that comes your way.
Yeah.
And be prepared to navigate the inevitable setbacks.
So it's about having a realistic perspective, right? Understanding that life is full of ups and downs.
Absolutely.
And our financial journeys will be no different.
And speaking of journeys, remember the incredible power of compounding. Even small, consistent investments over time can lead to significant wealth.
Yeah.
Remember, the key to compounding is survival.
Okay.
You need to be able to weather the market downturns, the unexpected expenses, the inevitable bumps in the road.
It's like that saying, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market.
Precisely. Stay focused on the long term and don't let short-term fluctuations derail your plans.
Any other advice for our listeners as they embark on their financial journeys?
Embrace a strategy that allows for room for error and flexibility.
Okay.
Things change. Your goals might change. The world around you will definitely change. Don't be afraid to adjust your plan as needed.
So it's about having a plan, but not being married to it.
Exactly.
Being willing to adapt and adjust as circumstances change.
And finally, be kind to yourself.
Okay.
Personal finance is personal. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Do what works for you, what helps you sleep at night, and what aligns with your own values and goals.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of money, we want to leave you with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
If you could design your ideal financial life, not just in terms of money, but in terms of time, freedom, peace of mind, what would it look like?
And what small steps can you take today to start building toward that vision?
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of personal finance. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and perhaps even a renewed sense of empowerment when it comes to your money. Until next time.